Hi guys, hope you're okay. So this is another slightly controversial conversation, but again, these things have to be said. So I want to talk briefly about spiritual awakening and what that means to me, because there is a particular practice or a particular event within the spiritual community that most people know about, and that's known as the dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul, from my perception, is where you have a really strong cognitive dissonance between the reality you're in versus the events that are taking place. So it's almost like the equivalent of having a spiritual panic attack. That's the best way to describe it. And I experienced my first dark night of the soul back in, I think it was 2018. I had just left the company I'd worked for many, many years. My career path was taking a bit of a divergent into some other place, and my identity was completely wrapped up in my job. So it just felt like my world was falling apart because I didn't have my friends around me, and I was living away from home. And even though I was in a really good place, because I had money, I was able to support myself. I went inward, and by inward, I mean I was taking a lot of drugs at the time, in particular weed. This is something I've done for many, many years. I've smoked since I was a teenager. So I've always had a really strong insight into different aspects of reality and different thought processes. And at this given time, I think I'd just come back from Jamaica. I was away for a really fantastic, life changing holiday, which I'll talk about in a different video. However, for the purpose of this video, I had some weed and I was smoking by myself, which is something I did quite regularly back in the day. And on this particular occasion, I was smoking blunts, that is, without tobacco. And during that time, I remember just feeling very strongly connected to this weed. And when I say strongly connected, it's almost like I had an out of body experience where I was in my body, I was conscious of myself in the room that I was in, but I almost envisioned that there were other characters in my head with their own separate dialogue, and they had their own consciousness, and they were talking about me being aware of them at the time. So it was very crazy. You might even call it borderline psychotic, but whatever it is what it was. So I'm having this realization that I'm in my body, but it's almost like I really fully connected to the spirit that was within my body, and the perception of a multiple presence, or just being really tapped into lots of different things in that moment. It was really, really weird, but that was the beginning of what would have been a bad trip for me under normal circumstances. But I remember laying in my room. I was living in a studio flat at the time, or a studio apartment, and if you've ever been drunk to the point where you feel like you're going to be sick, it almost felt a bit like that. The room was spinning, but aside from the room spinning, it was almost like I had this very strong perception of an additional presence within the room with me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely disconnected from everything. I felt I was completely alone. I felt completely withdrawn into myself within this room. And I was really, really afraid. And I think the reason why I was so afraid is because I also recognized the magnitude of the place where I was, in the sense that I was the author of my own destruction to a degree. And I think I was having a moment of strong accountability. And I guess up until that point, I'd maybe not really been very accountable for myself. And this was a really, really big epiphany for me, because by acknowledging that I was the author of my own life and that everything had happened to me for a reason, it was almost like I was facing up to all the fears that I'd been burying and all of the bad decisions I'd made. And I just took ownership of it all. But then it was a really fucking frightening experience. It's very, really difficult to put into words just how that kind of came across. But I guess it's a sense of despair, it's a sense of realization. But when I sobered up, I got to the other side of this whole revelation I'd had and just realized that the answers to my problems, again, were with me. So I flushed the remaining weed down the toilet. I just made a pledge to myself that I was going to do better. I was going to get on top of myself. I was going to really make a change and make a positive change for my life and remove myself from being a victim of life. Because I remember reading in a book many years ago, it's one of my astrology books about the Pisces archetype. And one of the generic blurbs within the book is that it said, in life, we are all born, and it's like being born into an existing role where everybody has a part to play, and whatever you choose to be is how the world will treat you. So if you choose to be a victim, you'll be victimized. If you choose to be sad, you'll be sad. But if you choose to be victorious, you'll be a victor. So those words really resonated with me, and I thought to myself, I'm going to choose to be a victor. I don't want to be blaming people for aspects of my life anymore. I don't want to be a victim of life. I want to take charge of my life, and I want to strive ahead and do the best thing I can for myself and for my family. And when I say that that shift in mindset completely changed everything for me, it just put me on a different trajectory um, that completely set me out to almost become a conqueror of my own environment. And all I can say as a closing statement is that our mindset is such a powerful thing. But in order to get to a place where you can be fully actualized and fully take charge and be accountable for everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, or even on a continual basis, it starts with looking within yourself, taking that time to really explore what it is that works for you, what doesn't, and you're really showing up for yourself, because there is no one who's going to come and save us. There are many people who can come and give us advice and say what they think we need to do. And I think it's really good to have gurus and it's good to have mentors, because everybody needs somebody to guide them on a process. But ultimately, it's like the saying that you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So we have to do the work. We have to apply that masculine energy, or because I mean there's masculine and feminine within everything, and for those people who see my other videos, do resonate with the feminine energy that I have within me, which is to create, conceive, and to envision a journey. But equally, we have to tap into that masculine energy, which is the yang energy, to enact, fulfill, and execute the plans that we have in our head. And when we do that and we marry the two, everything just starts to fall into place. So that's my quick rant on spiritual awakening. Took a bit of a tangent, but you get the general gist of what I'm trying to say. The conclusion point is just take charge of your life and try not to be a victim. If you want to be a victim, go through that process. But just remember, it is your choice if you choose to stay there. But yeah, that's as much as I'm going to say on this one. Sorry, it's a bit of a long video. If you like what has been said here and it does resonate, then feel free to leave me a comment, leave me any feedback that you want, and hopefully you will become the victors in your own lives. But until then, take care and speak to you soon. Bye.